Hexagram number 5. Nourishment. Waiting in the correct attitude empowers the creative. The image of this hexagram is that of steam, the breath of the creative, rising up to form clouds. Before rain can come, clouds must form. So it is with progress generated by the creative. Progress results from accumulative stages of development. Steam that accumulates into clouds symbolizes the creative energy generated when we attain a correct waiting attitude. Progress results when we perseveringly maintain this creative attitude. In a correct waiting attitude, we avoid the doubt and impatience that dissipate energy. We also avoid indolence, engaging in diversions and dispassions that cause us to lose sight of our work and contact with our inner voice. We cultivate attributes that accumulate energy, such as modesty. We patiently cooperate with time as the vehicle of change, realizing that when the time comes to act, the creative will indicate the correct way to respond. A correct waiting attitude is modest, unassuming, and independent. By clinging to a modest viewpoint, we avoid comparing ourselves with others and thus are able to keep doubt dispersed. This helps us to remain free of the hopes and desires that destroy inner independence. The more we maintain inner independence, and the more we keep attuned to the essential needs of the moment, the stronger and more profound the power of the creative becomes. The superior man eats and drinks, is joyous and of good cheer. If we perseveringly maintain a cheerful and detached attitude while holding to our principles, the force of inner truth will be able to work on the entire situation. The force of inner truth penetrates gradually, influencing everything that needs to be influenced. Rushing another's development or trying impatiently to force changes only causes reversals. At best, we achieve surface reforms, but the changes do not endure, for they are not based on inner assent. Steadfast waiting leads to slow but permanent changes in which we accomplish what is correct for everyone concerned. We often receive this hexagram when we are waiting. When we often receive this hexagram when our waiting attitude becomes incorrect so that progress halts. Perhaps doubt that through waiting in non-action or allowing ourselves to be led by the sage, we will achieve anything. Perhaps we suspect that in the end, we will only be cheated of happiness. Such doubts arouse fears, causing our inferiors to become impatient, demanding that we speed things along, or else get rid of the problem. All effort is fueled by subtle invasions of doubt put forward by our inferior man. Effort always indicates a loss of inner independence. Such doubts are always perceived intuitively by those we wish to influence and arouse their distrust. Effort implies that we doubt their ability to find their own way. It also implies that we doubt the truths we supposedly follow. It implies that we distrust the hidden power of the creative. We still cling to the idea that making progress depends on external effort. The ego ever seeks a straight line to success and distrusts the slow progress achieved through following nature's zigzag way. The creature of our fear, the inferior man, seeks to dominate and manage affairs. In so doing, it encroaches on others' space and interferes in their self-direction. Each changing line of this hexagram indicates potential defects of attitude we need to avoid while waiting. We are meant to search out negative influences and resolutely deal with them. For example, doubt influences us so long as we listen to its arguments. Doubt is not quiescent, but actively destructive. Even though we may seem powerless against its negative pressure and find that we are unable to rid ourselves of it, we can, through holding firm, overcome its power. There exists what seems to be a 3-minute rule. If we can withstand ego pressures for only 3 minutes, the assault of the negative force will collapse. The force of doubt is impotent in the face of true resoluteness and firmly clinging to what is good. Like standing in a surf, the first wave is strong and powerful, but the second follows at half the strength. The third is a mere hint of a wave. These waves are renewed only if we reconsider the thoughts that originally caused them. Changing line number 1. Waiting in the meadow. It furthers one to abide in what endures. No blame. This line warns that a challenge is impending. The correct response is to prepare not by anxious anticipation, but by keeping still within. We refuse to listen to our clamoring inferiors and their arguments. We need to be ready, yet not weaken ourselves with dread. Whether we are preparing for a battle, a speech, a tennis match, or for meeting someone under adversative conditions, we should not rigidly pre-structure what we will do or say, or allow ourselves to consider the good or bad that may result. To do so feeds our inferiors' fears. We need only hold firmly to what is good, essential, and correct, for this is what endures. Beyond that, we should keep our minds open and alert, ready for anything that comes. Changing line number 2. Waiting on the sand. The end brings good fortune. Sand provides an uncertain place to wait, and waiting on sand means we wait in an attitude of doubt and uncertainty, afraid to rely on the unknown to pull us through the impending challenge. Because we doubt it is not time to act, we should retreat, keep still within, and allow events to take whatever course they will. We act only as each thing persists. We act only as each thing presents itself without predetermining what we will do or say. Inner doubt invites attack, therefore we should avoid being drawn in by exchanges or pressured into adopting courses of action. Until we discover and rid ourselves of what it is we fear, we should resolutely decide not to listen to any inner arguments. Changing line number 3. Waiting in the mud, but the arrival of the enemy. Forgive me. Again, changing line number 3. Waiting in the mud brings about the arrival of the enemy. Mud represents a careless, self-indulgent attitude. Careless presumption is an imbalance that invites a cosmic correction in the form of challenge and shock. We never have the luxury to abandon a firm, resolute, and correct attitude. We must ever remain careful, alert, and persevering. Waiting in the mud symbolizes waiting in fear and doubt. We doubt that even though we follow our path perseveringly, anything will be accomplished. We won't succeed, says the inner voice of despair. This will take forever, says the nagging voice of frustrated desire. If such fears are not resisted, the actions we take will damage the overall situation. Waiting in the mud symbolizes sincerity in listening to dangerous ideas offered by our inferior man in the form of desire, envy, passion, self-comfort, self-assertion, anger, alienation, pride, doubt, and petty dislikes and likes. If we steadfastly refuse to listen to these elements, then we deny nourishment to the inferior man. In denying him nourishment, he withers up and blows away like the wicked witch of the west. Mud also symbolizes time of indecision when we are tempted to give in to an unfavorable pattern of action. Again, mud also symbolizes times of indecision when we are tempted to give in to an unfavorable pattern of action. Changing line number 4. Wading in blood. Get out of the pit. Here we contemplate taking a stand to force results with the uncompromising hardness that comes of giving up on people and of mentally killing them in our hearts. In Ching terms, this is to execute them. Hence, the image of blood. Blood also symbolizes having come to a negative assessment of people. We wait in blood when we suspect with inner bitterness that fate has set out to ruin us. Thus, it refers to a resistant and vindictive mood, either toward others, toward fate, or toward our job. We should retreat from such moods and allow fate to take its course. Other forms of blood involve harboring an either they do this or else attitude, or a do anything to change the situation mood. On discovering such sharks in our inner attitude, it is wise to return to the path of humility and to cease challenging fate, which, like the tiger of the 10th hexagram, can bite. Changing line number 5. Waiting at meat and drink. Perseverance brings God fortune. I think that is meant to say perseverance brings good fortune. Although moments of respite, although moments of respite occur in the midst of difficulties, we should not assume that our problems are resolved. We should be aware that we have only reached the eye of the hurricane, and that we would do well to prepare for new challenges by keeping our attitude disciplined and correct. We avoid spoiling the progress gained and remain prepared for any new challenges to our inner balance. That's changing line number 5. I'm going to read that one more time. Changing line number 5, waiting at meat and drink. Perseverance brings good fortune. Although moments of respite occur in the midst of difficulties, we should not assume that our problems are resolved. We should be aware that we have only reached the eye of the hurricane, and that we would do well to prepare for new challenges. By keeping our attitude disciplined and correct, we avoid spoiling the progress gained and remain prepared for any new challenges to our inner balance. Changing line number 6. One falls into the pit. 3 uninvited guests arrive, horror them, and in the end there will be good fortune. Oh, forgive me. Oh, I'm going to begin that one more time. Changing line number 6. One falls into the pit. 3 uninvited guests arrive. Honor them. Honor them. And in the end, there will be good fortune. Although we have waited correctly, it seems we have not accomplished anything. Progress, however, often involves retrograde moments. Before we can make a new beginning, we must bring old decadent ways of relating to an end. Waiting correctly is part of this necessarily slow, regenerative process. If we keep an open mind, we will see that even happy turns of good fortune often come in a form that at first seems strange to us. This ends hexagram number 5.